Live, it's Neil Atkinson with Rob Gutman, with John Gibbons and with Harriet Pryor in order to look ahead predominantly to a final we're very, very, very excited about, as you would expect. We're going to do a little bit of looking back at the game against Leeds United, and also coming up, we are joined with Andy, with Rohan, to talk about Mind, EFL's charity partner, and also we have got Harriet Pryor with Katie Stengel, which is in there too, as much as you can expect, possibly begin to expect. It's been a great week with loads of fantastic stuff on the Anfield Wrap, and if you haven't downloaded the app yet, I would suggest doing so, because trust me, it is far better, far, far, far better than the cup final grandstand of your nostalgic memories. You could not get any more, you could not want any more. And John Gibbons, we are going to predominantly focus this show on what's happening on Sunday, but one thing that happens on Wednesday that for me is massive in the context of what may well happen on Sunday is Sadio Mane plays number 9. He does pretty well, and he bags himself a brace. And, you know, John, that's 2 games back-to-back Sadio's had number 9. And from the manager's comments today, you would think it'll be Sadio Mane who starts number 9 for Liverpool going into this one at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Diogo Jota is trying his best, and wants to be fit, but you'd have thought it would be sort of from the bench at this stage. So I'll expect him to go with the 3, who started the last 2 games. And listen, it's not bad, is it? The scoring goals, they're playing well. All 3 of them scored last weekend, and then 2 got braces on Wednesday. So we're going in with a lot of form, we're going in with a lot of firepower, and we're going in with a lot of confidence. And I'm sure Sadio Mane is feeling good. More goals than John Barnes now. It's not bad.
Not bad at all. And in fact, Rob, John Barnes went on that career trajectory himself. He ends up back in centre midfield, but there's a period, 1990, 1991, where Barnes moves from the left-hand side, plays centre forward for Liverpool. That was what was actually in my mind. So well done, John, there, for segueing it in really rather neatly. Barnes, that's what Barnes did. And Sadio himself, I think he's got everything in his locker, and he's shown that he's got everything in his locker. It's just getting used to playing the position.
Yeah, I think we've seen Sadio play as an accomplished number 9 for a number of years now. Liverpool's front 3 are as fluid as any front 3 in world football history, quite frankly. If you look at montages of Sadio Mane goals, they're not actually the winger goal that Salah scores more often than not, which is cutting in from a wide position and bending it. He does enough of those, but a hell of a lot of them are right in the middle of the goal, at the edge of the 6-yard box, be it a header, be it a volley, be it a rebound. He is very much a 6-yard box predator when he wants to be anyway. To put him there and let him dedicate himself to it, I think we'll just see a lot more Sadio Mane goals. That will be the outcome.
We just suddenly got Andy emerging there whilst Rob was talking, which I thought was fantastic stuff on the TAW Live. If you listen to this as a podcast, you've just missed out, to be frank, but we'll be all right in the end. Sadio, Harriet, what Rob's saying there, I couldn't agree more with it. In fact, he gets the predatory goals in the game against Leeds there. For me, I like how he's, for instance, got greater license to drop deep, come and involve himself in play as well. I think he takes a couple of fewer risks when he's through the middle. I think that's not a bad thing at the moment. I think I'm really excited about it from a Liverpool point of view, not just right now, but also in the near future.
Yeah, I missed some of what Rob said because I was distracted by Andy popping up. But Mane, I thought, had a bit of a weird start to the Leeds game in that he literally blocked a shot that I thought was going in to start with, and then a few passes were going. Yeah, he did do that. We've forgotten about that because we won 6-0, so it doesn't really matter. And then a few passes. I just thought he struggled in the first sort of period to get into the game and to make things work. And then the more he's growing into that position and the more he gets used to it, with Diaz alongside him on the left and Salah on the right, the more you see him dropping into those more attacking positions and just looking more confident in it. And I think it's really, obviously that any player that plays in that front 3 that's got versatility to play in the different positions is going to be a huge bonus. And that's one thing that we really saw with Jota. The fact that he could play across the front line was a huge bonus to us. And having Mane through the middle with Diaz on the left, it looked like a really exciting combination. And the attack at the moment is just unrelenting, isn't it? The fact that we've got the top 3 scorers, top 3 assisters in the Premier League, it's just ridiculous. And any defence coming up against us, whether you're Leeds or whether you're looking ahead to the weekend and you're Chelsea, you're just not wanting to deal with any of them. And I feel sorry for anyone that does have to be quite honest.
Chelsea's defence is renowned, John, for its solidity. But the point about all of this is movement hurts defences, to be honest with you. Interchangeability hurts defences. If you're constantly having to pass a man on, at some point someone knocks off, at some point someone can't respond as quickly as you'd like. And that to me is where Liverpool can continue to really excel, and it's the same when Jota plays back there. The trick for Mane is going to be doing a lot of the Firmino stuff that, in terms of linking midfield and attack. He's not really had to do that yet, given the fact that the opposition has been Norwich and it's been Leeds. What Firmino's really good at is knowing when he needs to go and be another midfielder, as well as then joining into the sort of the 9 or the false 9 position, depending on how you want to phrase it. That to me is going to be the challenge for Sadio, especially in a game against opponents the calibre of Chelsea.
It will. I think we need to expect them, though, to be a sort of a different sort of number 9. I think Jota's a different number 9, for example, than Firmino, and so they do it in different ways. I think Bobby, is very unique in his number 9-ness, isn't it? And that's sort of been part of his gift to Liverpool, really. But Sadio, he's so strong, is what I would say, and he's a really good outball for the team, and he is that when he's wide. But I think he can be in the central as well. For someone who's not a huge fella, he's hardly built like a traditional target man, is he? But if you knock a ball up to him, he will bring it down. He will hold the man up, and he will get his teammates into play. So as if we're talking about things that he can add as an extra to the goals and to the attacking talent that we can see, I think it's that as a number 9, really. And listen, we're not going to, hope that we're penned in too much, but if we are, or if we struggle, or if the goalie just needs to go long at some point to beat the press, and because there's no options there, you back Sadio or indeed Mo if he's coming, a bit more central, or finds himself in a more central area to win it against any defender, to be able to hold them off and to bring his teammates into play and get us up the pitch.
On the other player who gets brought in from the cold, I would say, against Leeds, Rob, is Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
And one of the things interesting about this is, first and foremost, he's just completely in from nowhere. So he'd not been on benches or anything like that, and then suddenly he's right the way back in. It's Harvey Elliott who drops out. To me, all this suggests, first and foremost, that Curtis has been impressing in training. I don't think he gets games. I don't think anyone who's an impression in training at the minute gets games for Liverpool because of the options the manager's got. But I think the other thing with Elliott going completely as well is that the manager's thinking about who he wants as a sub. And that's why maybe, when some of the stuff around when Curtis wasn't getting picked, it was maybe overstated a little bit, because you can understand he wants Milner's experience on the bench. Chamberlain can also cover for Salah as well as offer something else in the middle of the park. Kite has shown that he can be a really good substitute for Liverpool. One of Thiago and Henderson have been on the bench recently at times. Henderson's on the bench against Leeds himself. Do you know what I mean? I think that at times, because there is so many options, we're almost not used to players of the calibre of Jones or Gomez, for instance, missing out, and we're perhaps too quick to draw too many conclusions.
I've heard you espouse this view on another show because I listen to you.
I can't believe it these days.
And I became the other side of that curtain, going, I disagree, Neil. I disagree with that, although I don't entirely disagree. I think you've got a point, but here's my thinking on it. What I think Klopp's thinking. I think because he's now got this embarrassment of riches, whilst for this brief period, maybe we have people fit, he's suddenly become acutely aware of the stigma of telling a man you're not in the match day squad, and that they suddenly feel. Obviously, lots of players want to be in the first 11. They want to be in the starting 11. That's the holy grail. That's the expectation for these lads. They're all of high quality. So to be said you're on the bench, they go, okay, I'll live with that. I'll fight my way back. I'll get a sub appearance. But to be taken 2 rungs down and to be not in the match day squad is a body blow to athletes of, and you can pick any one of them now. We're now listing in that number a Gomez, a Minamino, a Jones, an Elliott, and
Origi.
And soon it'll be a Bobby Firmino could find himself in that position. So I think he's trying to deal with that body blow by saying, not being in the matchday squad doesn't mean you're 2 rungs from your holy grail. Doesn't mean you're 2 rungs from where you think you deserve to be. It just means today you're not. And I think he sent that message. I think what he did with Jones was as much...
And with Elliott maybe as well, do you think?
And exactly that. As much with Elliott, he's sending out a message to all of them that you're not 2 rungs away. You're just not in the matchday squad. And then he can build that narrative, which you've built, and I don't entirely disagree with, which is...
I think you'd really rather agree with it, but, we are where we are.
No, but I think it's because of the context I've just described. I think he's saying to them, I need a horse for a course. You're not the wrong player. You're just not the horse I needed in this position, but you very well could be next one. To show Jones that he could go from 3 games in to 3 games, 3 rungs down to back in is a major statement to that squad.
There we are. John, do you feel the same way? And also, I thought Curtis, other than the first 5 minutes or so, I thought he did excellently against Leeds.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, isn't it? And I'm pleased he gets his start because, as Rob says, it would have been a real blow to him to not get in squads. Yeah, I thought he grew into the game. I think that is fair to say. I thought he was, there was a bit of lack of sharpness from someone who's not played much competitive football, which is to be expected. But it only sort of first 10, 15 really. And I thought after that, he got better and better. And you're pleased for him to be involved, really. I mean, a Wednesday before the cup final is always one that you're going to see rotation a little bit. But isn't that lovely? We're talking about rotation and a 6-0 win in the same breath and in the same night. What a bevy of luxuries this manager has.
Are we allowed to comment on what people are saying in the
Yes, you
comments?
can.
Somebody said something in German, which it was.
It's reference to crisps.
I know what it is. I know. Was essen Sie
I know
mit,
German.
Was essen Sie mit Bratwurst crisps? What do you eat with Bratwurst crisps?
This is really random for people that aren't watching.
I think that's brilliant.
There we are. Excellent stuff.
The contribution.
Rob's overcome with the contribution there, Harriet.
If we're going to bring people in, Hamdi said, nice to have guys and princesses, and I'm going to Bagsy being a princess.
Absolutely, John.
I'd rather be a princess than a guy. Guy's very dull, isn't it?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. An absolute 100%. Tomorrow, as and when I've got to give a speech, and so's Rob. And I'm going to refer to the bridesmaids as handsome and to the best men as radiant. That is
handsome for women. It's like old school, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's old school. They say it in Mad Men.
So am I a guy rather than a princess?
You can be whatever you want.
You choose.
2022.
You can pick whatever you want to be, Harriet. And on that note, moving into the idea of Curtis, it's unlikely that he gets time on the pitch on Sunday. But there's a few players, obviously there's a limit as to how many can get time on the pitch on Sunday. But the point is, and why, I thought Henderson in the press conference today, again, sort of thinking back to Leeds and then thinking ahead to the final is really interesting because he is talking about the idea that everyone's played the part in this. And for me, that's in a really weird way, if Liverpool win the Champions League this year, it'll be a smaller number of players who will directly have played their part than with this League Cup because so many players have played their part. And the idea you can make changes on Wednesday, gone. You can make changes on the Wednesday to follow against Norwich. All of that's so important for this Liverpool squad and belief.
Yeah, I was looking earlier and there's been 29 players playing this League Cup build-up. So that's
really?
Yeah, 29
Amazing.
Different players. So I think if you're looking at that from an academy perspective, that's such a testament to the work they've been doing there. I think Klopp's just really got it right this season, hasn't he, in the Cup game so far, with a mix of the experienced players and having that core and that spine in there and bringing in the younger talent with them and them having that real belief that they can go on and push forward because they've got Van Dijk there if they mess up, basically. So I think that's worked really well. And, Pep Lijnders was asked today in the press conference whether it's really hard basically to tell the younger players that they're not going to be a part of the final when they've been such a big part of getting them there. And he was like, no, absolutely not, because they're all aware that they're all part of the team. We're speaking every day. They know how much a part of it they are. And they're all coming on the bus with us. They'll all be there to watch it. And I think probably for them, it's a real sense of pride that they've got through with some really tough fixtures. And the more sort of we've got further in the competition, the more as fans and the more as a team, you can see the sort of excitement and the encouragement around it just growing and growing. And I think especially after that Leicester game, when we got back into it as fans, we were like, we want to go all the way now, and we want to get to that final. And the younger players will just be really proud that they've managed to play a small part in that. And if we win, then they'll definitely take their trophy and deserve it.
Last little thing before we do look ahead, John, and go to the fantastic inserts that sit there on this tour live this week. My first thing is Liverpool have now scored 70 league goals. It's a phenomenal number. It's 26 games. If they extrapolate that over the course of the season, they will break 100. They've also very much nailed on the idea that they are fighting on four fronts. It wasn't that long ago. It was 12 points, whether it was with or without games in hand. Listen, we've seen that ground be eaten up on us in the past, the other way around. It is. I ended up doing something on Radio Manchester last night because all they wanted to talk about was the idea of a title race and would you rather be chasing or would you rather be leading? And listen, I'd always rather have points on the board. Let's not be polite about this. Points on the board are what matters. But Liverpool have sent out one hell of a signal this week that they are very, very, very serious about winning this football league.
Yeah, they have. And although I agree with you that I'd rather have the points on the board, that feeling of having a lead eaten away, is sort of psychological and players and managers do check tables, I'm sure. And as that's getting lower and lower, it must sort of have an effect, really. Obviously, City have got an opportunity to go back ahead because we don't play in the league this weekend and they do. So they'll be sort of looking at that. But if they don't win, that game, that'll feel like Liverpool have clawed more points on them, even though we haven't sort of played a league game. That'll feel like, because it was really interesting where Pep Guardiola was saying, it's a 3-point gap before it was even a 3-point gap. He just decided that we beat Leeds. And fair play, he was right, we beat them 6-0. But you know what I mean? That's what they'll be thinking.
He's watched footy in the past, John, I think.
But if they do drop points against the Mighty Blues this weekend, then that will feel like we've reduced that gap even further without playing, which will be a huge psychological thing. So let's all hope for a miracle at Goodison Park at 5:30.
It will take a miracle, trust me. I've looked at the underlying numbers. In the comments, Patrick Westmore says, this Liverpool versus Arsenal women's FA Cup on BBC iPlayer on Sunday at 12 noon. He's absolutely right to point that out. It is a massive game for Liverpool Football Club in the Women's League on Sunday. It is a huge, huge game because it'll let them know where they're up to in comparison to the WSL team. To do well against Tottenham earlier in the season. Arsenal are a different class, but that'll be a really good game of football. Do check that out at 12 noon. We have coming up right now, Harriet Pryor speaking to Liverpool's January acquisition, Katie Stengel. That is to come. Also, we've got Andy talking to Rohan about Mind, the EFL's mental health charity that they partner with prior to this final. It is exciting stuff. Both of that is to come if you listen to this as a podcast. If you are on the live with us, or maybe you're going to do both, we are going to be back in 3, 2, 1. And there we are. We are back. And we are back to look ahead to this final. And Rob, one of the things that was said before was about the younger players. There is one younger player who will be starting this weekend for certain. It is the goalkeeper, Kelleher. For me, I'm really pleased about this. I think it's worth remembering a couple of things. One is that Alison Becker gets the odd injury here and there. So if you want a number 2 of genuine quality, you've got to be able to reward that player. But also, secondly, I think it's a big statement culturally about the way in which Jurgen Klopp wants to run his football team. It's a vote of confidence, obviously, in the footballer in question. I'm pleased he's doing it. And even if something goes horribly wrong on Monday, I will not regret that decision.
No, it's another example of how Jurgen is able to play play for the present and with one eye to the future simultaneously, which is not an easy thing to master, especially when you espouse the one game at a time mentality, which football has to live by. With Kelleher, he's sending out the message. We've continuing the theme I was talking about earlier. But he's also possibly sort of laying a foundation for being able to keep this incredible young goalkeeper at Liverpool as our backup for at least another 2 years, quite frankly. Maybe just long enough to see Alisson into his dotage and for Kelleher to become a Liverpool number one day. It's a really difficult balancing act. That would be the dream. But to show Kelleher that he's trusted in this way is one way of edging towards that dream.
I think it's... Harriet, I think it's so significant. I really do. And I think it's different from whatever Chelsea do between Mendy and Kepa, and that's their business. It's their football club, and their manager gets to run it how he wants. But the point about this is that Mendy's an expensive acquisition. Kepa was an even more expensive acquisition. Whichever way they go, it is different to whatever Liverpool do. And if Liverpool do back the younger footballer here, for me, I think it just sends a signal out to everyone. To anyone who's 16, 14, 12, who's thinking about what football club they might want to join if they've got exceptional talent and ability. And also to the squad itself, to the existing footballers, that you will get chances at Liverpool if you earn them.
You will get chances. I think it's also really important to say that if this goalkeeper, even if in a normal League Cup campaign, had been playing and they were maybe Adrian, for example, they wouldn't get the final if they weren't trusted. And I think that the fact that he's getting the nod for the final just shows that he has the ultimate trust from the manager and from the team around him. We were talking about the academy earlier. It's a huge testament as well to the academy, the fact that they've been able to bring this goalkeeper through and now he's going to be starting in a final. It's such a huge moment for his career. I mean, he's 23 years old and he's going to be coming out to Wembley with 80,000 people watching him. The only thing I sort of worry about from his perspective is that there is a lot of pressure, and with the people around saying Alisson should start and all these things, it does put more pressure on his back. So I think now that we 100% know that it is him, we've all got to accept that now and back him fully, because he's deserved it. He's played throughout the campaign, bar the one game, obviously, when Alisson was coming back from a bit of time off, and he deserves to be playing there, and I trust him and I back him to do well. He's shown us absolutely nothing to suggest that we should be worried, and that's what I always think. There's nothing we need to worry about with him, and I think he'll have a great game, and we just all need to back him 100%.
John, in the autumn of 2019, I always remember Liverpool went to Genk, and the really strange thing that happens when Liverpool go to Genk is with about 20 to go, the manager brings on Divock Origi, and the Genk supporters sing Divock's name for a period of time. And I in the way you forget sometimes that football is not just literally what happens to Liverpool in your own mind. You were lucky enough to go over and do some work around telling the story of Kelleher before this. You went over to Cork and spent a bit of time, and it's worth dwelling on the fact that these things, they are significant, and we have our Liverpool focus, and I'm fine with us having our Liverpool focus. But there are a variety of different locales to football, while simultaneously, obviously, the one that matters the most is the locale of the club in question.
Yeah, we've done quite a lot of the Anfield Wrap on the stories of the players, and Cuvine's just the sort of latest one, and you go over there and it's the pride's bursting out of them, in terms of pride for him, but also having played a part in the development of him and others. It must be said as well who've gone on to professional careers who've came out of Ringmehen, but so they're delighted with him, and I think every pub in Cork's going to be full on Sunday, and they're going to be watching it. And it was funny hearing them say that he used to be he used to have to not quite bully kids to go in goal, but be very persuasive. And now 90% of the lads who turn up want to play in goal, and they can't get an outfield team together because that's the problem. Everyone wants to be the new Kelleher. Everyone wants to play in goal and be like their hero. So it's amazing, isn't it, what influence just one person breaking through can have, and that influence will last for years now on Cork, and I'm sure across the whole of Ireland as well. They're all sort of very proud of him, and when he walks out behind Jordan Henderson, who we expect on Sunday, it'll be a huge moment.
The pubs in Cork are good.
They are very good, Neil.
It would be my second favourite place to watch this game, if not in the ground. I think the pubs in Cork.
Yeah, absolutely. I was well gelled that the lads went over to Cork in the week, even only for a short spell. And obviously,
well gel, I like that.
Well gel, Harriet.
Yes, 7 hours we were there, Bob.
Oh, it's
but
not
you did manage a few Guinness in there, didn't you? So
well, you got to, Harriet. You know what I mean?
It's rude not to, wasn't it, John? It's a wonderful place, Cork, and I for one cannot wait to go back.
We cannot wait to go back. Rob, Kelleher in goal. The next key question then becomes what he does next to Van Dijk. I genuinely think he's going to start Konate. I'm fine with that again, and I think it's important that if you've got younger players at your back, it's important to get big match experience, final experience. With a serious football team who wants to be in finals for years. What do you think he's going to do?
A week ago, I was confident it was going to be Konate, and I thought he might have dropped him in against Leeds to get him ready for it. Now I'm genuinely 51-49 Matip, but is that right? I was just doing
that's fine. That's splendid. That does equal 100.
That was after half a beer. It suddenly got a bit harder than it needed to be. But yeah, no, I can barely pick between them. That's the case. I thought that if he was sure Lukaku would start, I think you look at Konate, the way Konate dealt with, say, Ibrahimovic, another static forward, you'd go, yes, it's Konate. You want Konate. He's shown himself in one-on-one battles as a player. I wonder against a more, fluid, falsish nine like Havertz, who could get the nod in that position, whether Konate is the right choice or not. So I couldn't call it, and I think it's going to be a hard one for Klopp to call.
Harriet, what do you think he's going to do?
I think he's going to put Konate in for this one. I think he's just a bit more robust in terms of dealing with a more agile defence. I think Havertz probably does start for Chelsea. Lukaku's not really shown in his last few games that why he should get a start. I mean, it's widely documented his 7 touches against Crystal Palace, isn't it? So I think Havertz might start, but I still think Konate will come in. Although I just love Matip. So it's really hard to see him on the bench, especially after he scored a goal and just a game against Leeds and just looks so solid. But yeah, Van Dijk and Konate for me, and they're quite big, and you want that in front of Kelleher, especially if he's in goal.
What do you think, John?
I think he'll pick Matip. I think if he was going to pick Konate, he'd either played him a little bit more than what he has. I know he loves dropping him in, and I know he loves dropping him in a big game, but I don't know. It feels to me like it's going to be it's going to be Van Dijk and Matip. But that said, if it is Van Dijk and Konate, I won't have an issue at all, because I think he's done great. And I think the three really, really, great defenders that Liverpool, and Joe Gomez is a great defender as well, but that will be a shock at this stage if he suddenly goes in there. But they're all good options, and that's fantastic.
Okay. Are you expecting any surprises in the middle of the park, Rob? I
Yes.
think you are. Go on.
In as much as I think it's really hard to call, I had a thought that Jordan might not start until I saw him fronting the press conference, and then the law of if you're in the press conference, you definitely start applies. So because a final like this is a game impossibly in three parts, in that you've got the first phase, then the substitution phase on around 60, and then you've got extra time, and you've got 5 subs for this. So it's a bit of a distraction, I think, to talk entirely about starting 11s a lot of the time, but in this kind of game especially, it's a distraction. To that end, I think starting with the dream 3 of Thiago, Fabinho, and Henderson, Klopp / Linders might consider folly, because I think you'd like one of them on to add their quality. And I've got a feeling it might be Thiago and Fabinho starting. Sorry, Fabinho and Henderson starting, with Thiago being the wild card who could play a crucial hour from 60 to the end of extra time. So if there is a third mystery spot on start, the surprise pick could be Naby Keita. Wouldn't put money on it, but I called it on Curtis in the week, and it could be Curtis. It could be Curtis, Harvey Elliott, or Naby Keita. And again, doing the maths between 30s, 31s, and 33s, I don't know. I don't know who you'd pick, but I've got a feeling our chosen best 3 might not start.
Okay, John, what do you think about that? That's quite interesting from Rob. And I think it is worth remembering the 5 sub thing, and I think it is worth remembering potentially 120 minutes.
It's no extra time, is there?
There is extra time, yeah. It's semi-finals and final in the League Cup. There is extra time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's made a lot of things that I've said on other shows not true. I'm blaming the
FIFA thing with John. Yeah, Josh, very much so. No, that's wrong. I looked it up today. I double checked because I was doing the same thing.
Okay. I still think you'll pick the same starting 3 in midfield, which I think you'll go Henderson, Thiago, and Fabinho. I think Fabinho and Thiago have been the standout midfielders this season. The record speaks for itself, and I think he's managed them really well, going into this game. And I think Henderson has played himself into form, and the shares just at the right time. I think it's 2 good games, on the bounce from him, and so I'd expect him to get the nod. He's the captain as well, so and that doesn't guarantee you a share, but it does sort of count for something. And I think it does mean that someone else would have to be, in pretty outstanding form to get the nod over Jordan. And I just don't think anyone else is. I think there's a couple of lads who are doing fairly well, but I don't think anyone's been kind of jumping out at you as taking that shirt off him. So I think you'll go those 3, and then the 120 minutes things just makes it interesting in terms of other subs and when you use them, really. So he's someone like Jota, he might have a bit of a decision to make, in that you don't want to bring him on in 60 if he might have to play another 30. So that's where that's a bit of an interesting one. But I don't think it'll necessarily change who's going to start.
Harry, do you feel it'll be the 3?
Rob just wants to use that meme of Naby that he always uses, don't you, Rob? You just love that. So you're just keen for him to start because of that.
Rob and his memes.
I'm a Naby truther. I would say that one of the comments goes, "Go ahead, Rob, one for the Naby truthers." I like that.
When did Elliott last play? Because when I thought he
San
was
Siro.
I thought he was 100% going to start against Leeds, and then maybe with an eye to bring him in for the final. And I'm still thinking something mad might happen with Elliott. But I think if that doesn't happen, it's going to be the classic 3 that you see. I think like John said, the Thiago and Fabinho link up is just unreal at the moment. And I think Thiago is just providing a sense of control that he has to come in from the start. So 100% of him and Fabinho for me. It's just a question of whether Henderson starts. And he was in the press conference. He is the captain, wants to be leading the team out for the final and providing that leadership on the pitch as much as anything. So yeah, those 3 for me.
Do you think, to point out the last thing about this, Rob, is the scheduling is actually, I think it's actually really quite well done. For both Liverpool and Chelsea are hasten to add. Let's remember they've got agency in this. They're a good side. Kante plays in the week. He's often excellent against us. But the point is, we've all got 5th round FA Cup games midweek. Yeah. Ours is at home to Norwich, and whilst they scored a goal against us recently, and whilst they've got a game tonight, so they'll have a bit of time to rest before that one. What it means is everyone can leave it all out on the pitch. And for me, that's the most important thing here, from a Liverpool point of view. Whoever he does pick, whichever way he goes, everyone can leave it all out on the pitch.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I think he's known that for a while. And that's why I don't think we've seen any rotation for its own sake in the front 3. That's why I think Mane and Salah and Mane virtually played every minute they could have played since they've been back. I think that's correct. And actually thinking about that game again, I think that's possibly why Harvey Elliott doesn't start this, because I think he'll see Norwich as very much a game to bring him in from a start.
We're going to win?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously it's going to be graft, right? But I think it might be more measured graft than people might fear. I think one thing Liverpool has seemed to have gained back, and I don't want to tempt fate, but is the control of the title-winning season. I think we've seen that with the grinding out and the being able to sort of rest with the ball in games. We saw that against Leeds, quite frankly. We saw it against Burnley. Although even the winning ugly games we've had recently, like Inter, we've not come under a lot of pressure, and I'm hoping we don't against Wembley for my own sanity's sake, if little else.
John, are we going to win?
Yeah, I think we will. I think they have caused us problems in different ways in the two league games this season, but I agree with Rob. I just feel like we're a little bit of a different beast now to what we were then. The first one was the start of the season. We hadn't quite got our sort of rhythm. The away one is when, I don't know, there's a lot of COVID and mad stuff knocking around us, and then we were just a bit sort of open and a bit ragged. Whereas now we're pairing nicely, and now I know there's extra time as well. I'm really confident. Liverpool after extra time, they've just found out about.
Harriet, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to win. Obviously, I'm definitely backing us. I think if we go 2-0 up and like we did at Stamford Bridge, there's no way now in the position that we're in and the way that we're managing games that we can see to after that point. So their defense is obviously really solid, but our attack, like I said earlier, is completely unrelenting at the moment. So I'm going to go for I'm going to give you a score prediction as well. I'm going to go for a 2-1. No extra time, 90 minutes, still going to be done. We're going to have a nice day out.
Excellent stuff. Great and nice day out news from Harriet there. She's got more confidence around our bus than I have.
I won't even be there, but you'll have a nice day out.
Well, I mean, I always do, Harriet. I mean, we could get beat 3-0 and I'd still find a way to have a nice day out. Listen, thank you very much indeed to Rob and to Harriet and to John. There's been so much fantastic stuff on the Anfield Wrap this week. There really has. Download the app if you haven't thought to do so already and enjoy every last bit of it. I'll say it again, genuinely, Cup Final Grandstand was never as good as the Anfield Wrap has been this week. You've got yourself Jota, you've got Phil Thompson, you've got Ian Rush, you've even got James York from StatsBomb, and trust me, my friends, that does not come cheap. It has been an absolute pleasure, this tour live. Thank you very much to Andy for producing. It's a cup final on Sunday, and I really fancy Liverpool. Let me phrase it this way. This is what I'm going to start saying. It's what I've started thinking. I fancy Liverpool like Liverpool versus Leicester City Boxing Day 2019.